Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for your time. Happy Hump Day, everybody. My movie suggestion for the week is, I'm going to go ahead and throw out the one for the weekend would be Dead Body. I had another suggestion on the community page. Please check out the said information. This is a two-part live pertaining to Rex Heuremann'S, his wife, DNA, hair, hers, found on 3 victims. Why? One might be able to explain that, a defense attorney. The 3 victims, that's a bit suspicious to me. Is the wife involved? Does she know more? Or is this a matter of the women were killed in the house, in the bedroom, where he and his wife slumbered, and transference from the bedroom house got upon the victims? So what are we saying here? Is this the reason why law enforcement is questioning if the women were murdered in the house because of the DNA found on them, 3 victims that belonged to Asa Heuremann? Second part of this live stream is pertaining to Mr. Zuberi. He's been a very busy bee. Several people have come out to speak about his behavior, their dealings with him. Neighbor's sister has spoken out. A roommate has spoken out. His ex-partner, who allegedly is the same woman who was living in the house where this young lady was able to break free from a makeshift shelter, jail, whatever you want to call it, out of the garage. We're going to talk about all of that. And is she also a willing participant in his assaults? I've also gathered information today that he was accused of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old girl, I believe in California, and he didn't do any time for that. Why not? How old was he at the time? And why did he not get a jail sentence, a prison sentence for that sexual assault of a minor? He's been able to elude police from these assaults. He's now tied to 4. Also, I believe will be appearing in court next year for the one on the young lady from California, the underage child. Who is Negasi Zuberi? Is he just a working predator, rapist, or has he also taken a life? 2-part live, everybody. But we're also going to dissect why these crimes go undetected, such as assaults on women who work the street or work that field, sexual trade, sex trade. But in the end, anyone can become a victim. Hello, everybody in the chat. Hello, Lady Lola. Hello, Sweetie Pie. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Sweetie, for joining us. Welcome, Florida. Amen. Bet it's warm down there. Let's start off with News Nation. Why missing sex workers sometimes go unreported. Please check my community board because all of this information is in the YouTube queue and also posted to my community board for your verification. Thank you.
And joining us now is Jacqueline Gallucci, Assistant Managing Editor of Syndicate at the New York Times, also a former journalist at the Long Island Press. So, Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here. You began covering this case years ago, before it received a lot of attention. Now it's certainly picking up steam. What's been your reaction to a new victim being identified?
I think it's incredible. I think technology has come so far, and with familial DNA and genealogy, it's making it harder to hide anyone who did something terrible and maybe felt invincible for the last decade or several decades. They aren't feeling that way anymore.
And the victims in this case were working as escorts, as you know, who are sadly common targets of predators. Our Brian Nenton spoke with a former sex worker about what it takes to survive. Let's listen to the clip and then we'll come back with a question.
Do most sex workers have sort of like an escape plan, or do they carry a weapon or anything like that?
Yeah, sex workers are extremely good at reading people for obvious reasons because our survival depends on it. And we have to have good interpersonal skills. And, we're extremely intelligent and have amazing survival skills just in general. So but that's not enough.
So, Jacqueline, can you explain a bit about the stigma surrounding sex work and how it may have hindered this investigation?
So not all of these women were reported missing, and families don't always report their loved one missing, not because they don't care about them, but by the nature of their work, sex workers tend to live under the radar. It's not unusual to not hear from them for periods of time, so there are a few details to share with police. Plus, they don't expect sympathy from the public. People sympathize with the teacher next door who went missing, but if they find out someone was a sex worker, they think, oh, they were asking for it, even though that's not true. And it's very hard to come forward, especially when you don't feel like you'll be taken seriously. And on the law enforcement side, an adult has the right to go missing. So it's easy to look back now and say these cases should have gotten more attention. But at the same time, adults have the rights to disappear. And if there's no reason to believe there's criminality or that they were a danger to themselves or anyone else, the police move on to more pressing things at the time. They figure the person will eventually turn up and resolve itself. And many of these cases do resolve themselves.
It's really hard to hear. Every life is valuable. What is the feeling in this community, Jacqueline? Is there any relief as this investigation moves forward?
There's definitely relief just to have some answers because it's been a really long time, but I think it's mostly shock because there have been a lot of characters in this case from the beginning. There were many names thrown around for possible suspects. There was the police chief, the retired doctor, the driver, the John. As far as the community was concerned, it could have been any single one of these people. And in the end, it was none of them. So it was the married father of two next door, allegedly. It was your neighbor right now, so it's shocking.
Well, we certainly hope that there's justice in this case, answers for all, and it still remains a tragedy either way. Jacqueline Gallucci, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
News Nation is the source. You have the right to go where you want. You have the right to linger here, there, never call people, visit people, stay in contact. That's true. That is your right. And many people do it all the time. They fall off the radar for dealing with people, talking to people for whatever reason, angry, mad, don't have good ties with people. But a lot of workers possibly don't have good ties with their family because of their profession. Maybe a lot of them are known drug users. They stayed in trouble with the law, breaking the law, getting prostitution arrests, and nobody wants to be bothered with them. Each person's situation is different. I'm not here to claim which is the highest point of why sex workers aren't in communications with people, because each person's story is different. But we know that many sick men don't value women, period. So a prostitute is most definitely high on his list of a devalued specimen. She has no value because she's walking the street. She's jumping in and out of cars and going different places with men. She doesn't care about herself. But if you have that attitude about a woman, a female, then you're basically talking about yourself because you are partaking in a sexual act with her. Whether it turns violent or not, you're still participating in a sexual act with monies involved or drugs or whatever it is that you're offering to her and what she will receive. So you're no better than the prostitute. And this is a very sad situation of women going missing in general for various reasons. Then someone has to go out here and put the word out. And then we have to hope that law enforcement will be diligent in trying to find them. This situation is, yes, scary because it's a trade of jumping in someone's car and peripheral. And once you're in someone's home, car, hotel, it's all the same. All bets are off. The door is closed. You don't know what's behind the door, the car door, the home door, motel door. You're on your own. Some women may carry weapons, some may not. I can't speak of how many women that work the sex trade carried weapons, guns, stun guns, knives, spray. But it be to your best for yourself that you carry something if you're going to be in this line of work. Whether you walk the street or not, or you're an escort, however you are getting the monies and meeting with the Johns, prospective customers. A lot of men, as I said, devalue women in general. They don't have respect for women in general. And you can't say you respect a woman or your sister or your neighbor, but, oh, I don't like prostitutes. They're bad people. But yet you're having sex with them. You're dominating them. You're doing cruel acts with them. You are no better than she if you want to be judgmental. You don't like women, period. Because you can't have the two. Oh, she's a nice girl over here, but you want to partake in what you would deem a bad girl. When we already know a good girl could do the same acts that the alleged bad girl is doing. That's the perception. They're not wanted. Nobody likes them. As you're going to hear with the Zuberi case, he chose women he thought nobody would be looking for, which leads me to wonder if he had intent to kill that victim that escaped. The DNA on 3 of the victims belonged to Asa Heuremmann. So we have to ask ourselves, with those victims found, why is her hair on their persons at the time of discovery? Did Mr. Rex Heuremann kill these victims in his house, his home? Now, when you ask that question, you have to ask the next question. Where was the wife and kids? We keep hearing this over and over. They weren't there. They weren't there. Well, make us understand where they were, because that's open-ended just to say they weren't home. How is it that 3 grown people or children or however the ages that they were, all of them are gone at the same time, if I'm supposed to believe he brought these women back to the house? And that is how the transference came of her hair on the victims. Or do we have a case of a mother, wife involved in these sexual escapades, torture of these victims? Because there have been men who have coerced women into joining them in menage a trois, sexual acts with others, and also asking them to go out and pick up women for them to sexually assault and hurt and harm and murder. There are cases on the books where the women willingly knew that the man, the thing, was out here scouring the streets for victims. Is that the case with Asa Heuremann? She knows more than what she has revealed to the public. She's not speaking to the public. So what is it that she knows? And what is her involvement? And I'm wondering if she's not involved, he did bring the victims, take the victims back to the home. And that is why her hair is on 3. As someone said in commentary, 1 maybe, but not 3. That's too many victims to have a live woman's hair on their body. So one would wonder, did he kill them and went and got her and said, here, let me show you my handiwork? And she's looking over the bodies, hair shedding off her scalp onto the dead women. What are we talking about here? Because he's not talking and she's not talking either. And you can best believe when people start getting lawyers, they become judged. Why are you getting a lawyer? You're not involved. You haven't done anything. You don't know anything about his extracurricular activities. So what do you need a lawyer for? Divorce lawyer, maybe, but not a criminal lawyer. So, Ms. Asa, I'm asking you, what do you actually know about your husband's deviant behavior with other women, street workers, sexual activities, porn? He liked violent porn. That's another thing. I'm supposed to believe his wife had no idea that he watched porn and that he liked violent porn. And at some point, that side is going to come out in a person's daily life. You can't hide that, because at some point you're going to make derogatory comments about street women, sex, dominance, torture, because it is who you are. So why wouldn't he not display the behavior or mention the behavior in basic conversation? Did he ever ask his wife to partake in any type of nefarious type sexual acts, deviant acts, bondage, tying her up, being strangled during sex, putting a bag or cover, pillow over her face? Did he ever ask her to play dead? Because I can't see him killing these women and then turning that off when he went back home. That would be a very hard thing to do. And we've learned with Theodore Bundy that at some point in the time span of him killing those women out west, he did bring that nature home with the then girlfriend, strangling her while having sex with her, allegedly holding her head underwater on a trip on a lake in a boat. So you can't turn it off always. It has to come out. And it will come out at the most inopportune time. We hear he was a dominant figure riding the train from his locale into the city, telling people how to act and behave. He wants to be important. He wants to be seen. Big burly man, we see you. Who could miss you walking around at 6'3", 6'4"? Nobody. But that wasn't enough. I got to show you who I am. So once again, how many people has he murdered? Did he ever bring any of the victims home? Where was the wife and the kids? And what is the knowledge that the wife has of his behavior and his links to these victims or any other woman? Whether he murdered them or not, I won't doubt that he had affairs with women he did not kill because he possibly has a high appetite for sex. Many men do. That does not make them killers or rapers, but sex is a component to rape. Because as I said, you can easily try to dominate a person by coercion without having to touch them physically. Many people manipulate every day and they don't rape others. But he's an insecure guy. 6'3", 6'4". He's insecure. He doesn't like himself. He doesn't like women. You've seen the wife out and about. She does not seem to care about her appearance. And most will say, well, she's under stress. She's under duress. Well, if I'm under stress, duress, being outside would be the last place I want to be. So you wouldn't be taking pictures of me and gawking at me and trying to get an interview or comment from me. I think she likes the attention to some degree because the average person would not sit outside, especially with their children. I wouldn't even want to walk the dog, even though we know you have to walk the dog because the dog has to be able to use the restroom. But I wouldn't be giving half-baked comments to the news and then in the same breath say, well, I can't answer that. Talk to my lawyer. That leads me to believe that she likes this somewhat. She wants to say something, but she's scared to say the wrong thing. And that usually leads to me believing the person knows more. And I believe Miss Asa knows more about Rex. She was with him too long not to know something. And many people will say, well, how do you know? Who would want to be with a rapist, a killer? Many people have done it. As I tell many, you obviously don't watch true crime. Because as I've told many of you, don't think because a person does a very nasty, nasty deed, he or she has not told someone or what he has done. Do you know how many times people confess to their lovers, partners, what they've done? Go in an open bar and confess to murdering, raping someone, help carry the body out, tow the body out, conceal a body, hide a body, dump a body. Many people have done it. The sick part of the story is those who hold the truth and never reported to law enforcement. That's where you have the problem. Many sadists have told of their wrongdoings. It's the people who they told refuse to go to law enforcement. Now, one could say they fear for their safety. Well, my thing is remove yourself from the equation and then go tell the law. Don't go tell the law, oh, yeah, he said he raped the girl, and then go back and stay in the same house with the rapist. That would make no sense. You make sure you are separated from him or her because you're now carrying the secret. And then one would say, well, maybe they were joking. Maybe they were, but then maybe they weren't. Asa Heuremmann, what is her role in these murders? Where was she while he was out scavenging and hunting? And as you heard in this commentary, there are probably a lot of people involved in the deaths of some of those people out there found at Gilgo Beach. May not be just one perpetrator. Did he change his manifesto? I'll strangle this one, cut this one up, and then maybe I'll shoot this one. It has happened as to go undetected by law enforcement. The killer will change his or her MO. And that's why a lot of the crimes don't get solved because the MO changes. They pick a new dumping ground. Could someone have copycatted the first murders, heard those bodies were discovered, and then start killing people and dump them out there? I don't know. But right now, the count is rising. And Mr. Heuremann is not speaking. Also, information about a DNA swab. He doesn't want to consent. Why not? You're innocent. Your lawyer is blabbing on TV. You're innocent. Does not want this tried in the media, this case, but it's a national story. Mr. Heuremann, why do you not want to give your DNA? I'm curious. Don't you want to be exonerated of these crimes? You know, if they get your DNA, it's probably going to pop up on some other little nasty deeds out there in America. That's what you're really afraid of, because law enforcement is questioning if you have also assaulted women in South Carolina, Nevada, and any other jurisdictions where your feet has landed. Now, cases have come up out of Jersey City, but law officials are saying he's not related to those crimes. So we have to ask, well, did you compare DNA to those cases, and was there DNA in those cases to compare? The plot thickens. More information. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji, 129 Cash App, stickers and chats are welcome during this live stream. News Nation is the next source. Gilgo Beach killings. Heuremann's attorney fights DNA swab requests. What a mess. 2-part live, everybody.
So you would think if you're innocent and you tell a judge not guilty, then you would do everything to prove that, right? Like, take my DNA, it ain't me. That's not what Rex Heuremann's doing, the Long Island serial killing suspect. He's facing a world of hurt right now, right? He's facing 3 murder charges for 3 of the 11 bodies that were found on Gilgo Beach. Suspected in the 4th. And the investigation is into all the others as well. So stay tuned. But he won't give his DNA. He won't let them swab his cheek. They said that the prosecutors haven't established probable cause to take it. Okay, that's one tack in a defense. Good luck with that. But, you know, they found the pizza crust, right? I love this. It's the tactic that the detectives follow their suspect. And when he tosses out whatever he's eating or drinking into the garbage, they grab it. There it is right there, Manhattan trash can. Pizza box stamped right out of the top. Boop, right out of the top. And they grab it. Pizza crust still in it. DNA from his lips are all over it.
Right.
Now they just need to test it against him.
Right.
See if it's him or not.
Right.
But he won't give it.
Right.
So wait for that answer. We'll see how that all transpires. But in the meantime, it got us thinking about like the dumping grounds, right, of these all the serial killers that have made big headlines across the country. And we sort of wondered why. Why do they pick the places that, because they do cluster them, right? They do pick places where they keep going back to dump their bodies. And we thought, is it random? We Googled it. Oh my heavens. Okay, so look at this. I got the top 10 places where serial killers have dumped bodies. Number 10, Green River in Washington State. Number 9, Lincoln Park in Baltimore, Maryland. Number 8, Central Pine Barrens in New York. Number 7, Tacony Creek Park in Philadelphia. Number 6, Humboldt Park in Chicago. Number 5, East River, New York City. 4, Everglades National Park in Florida. Good luck ever finding those remains. Number 3, Mojave Desert. That's California, Arizona, Utah, and Nevada. Number 2, Pocono Mountains, Pennsylvania. And number 1, again, good luck with these ones, Louisiana swamps. Is there a method to their madness? We wondered. Is it more than just a convenient place to stash bodies? Turns out, yes. Gary Ridgway. He dumped the first 5 of his 71 kills
71,
in the Green River.
That's a lot.
After strangling and then having sex with the corpses. He told investigators that he viewed his bodies as possessions. He didn't like it when they were found because he would lose them if they were found. Ted Bundy, notorious. He called his dumping sites sacred ground. Here's his quote. They are part of you, and you are forever one. You feel the last bit of breath leaving their body. You then possess them, and they shall forever be a part of you. And the grounds where you kill them or leave them become sacred to you. Seriously? I want to bring in Mike King. He is a former homicide detective. He's also co-chair of the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. He spent the majority of his 28 years in law enforcement interviewing serial predators. And like the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, you had lunch with him. Prison lasagna, Mike King, I might add.
Wow.
What are these? You give me your perspective. You've been face to face with these people. I can't imagine what that's like, but give me your perspective on what their dumping grounds say about them.
Yeah, I think we can really get tunnel vision, Ashley, when it comes to these dumping grounds. I think we can, try to make up reasons why they're used. But what I've found over the course of my career and from people that trained me and people I've worked alongside, and it kind of seems consistent, is the fact that the predator, like normal legitimate behaviors, is number one, looking to be successful. They want to get away with this, and they generally are going to pick a location that they can be successful in disposing of the body. I think there's a little bit of theatrics when we hear Bundy or Ridgway or others talk about the special part of this ground. I think it's more about the fact that they are then shaken because somebody does discover the place where they're disposing bodies. And so the first thing I look for in these kinds of cases is trying to understand what the motivation of the offender was in selecting that particular piece of ground. Is it because they were successful, they could get away with it? It was a swamp where the body is going to disappear quite quickly, or predators are going to take care of the body and helping get rid of the body? Or is it something that's sentimental? And, we look at it from a legitimate standpoint. I guess we all maybe have a special place in the yard that we put our pet turtle when it died. And it's a place that we go out and we look at, and we might think about little turtle or puppy dog or whatever the case may be. But these predators, I think first and foremost, it's about success.
I got 30 seconds left. I just wanted to mention Gary Ridgway felt violated, he said, when his victims' remains were found and collected. But I'm also so fascinated. If you can give me just a quick one, too, on that lasagna lunch in the prison with the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. Can you just give me what that was like, your biggest takeaway from that?
I actually, it's horrible to say, but Richard Ramirez was very polite, but he was very much in control.
Yeah,
wow.
I can imagine that. I remember, I think you told the story at one point that when he was just 14, his cousin came back from Vietnam and showed him photos of him sexually assaulting and mutilating Asian women when he was in Vietnam. I always wonder if that's what the genesis was for his twisted killing. Will you come back another time, Mike? I just love having you on.
I'd love to. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you for watching. Go to
News Nation is the source. Well, News Nation has done a piece pertaining to developmental upbringing. Does it have something to do, your upbringing, to how you turn out as an adult and possible serial killing, rapist, sadist? I say so. Who's to say what went through his mind, Mr. Ramirez, when he saw those photographs of his relative assaulting women? Maybe it triggered something in him. Maybe something was already amiss in the mindset, and then seeing these women 9 times out of 10 unclothed, being assaulted, turned him on, and then a monster was born. I don't know. But your upbringing has everything to do with how you turn out. I don't care if you're a serial killer or not. At some point, the way you were raised, the way you were treated, forms your identity, your mindset, your thought process, how you react to things, how you respond to things, how you navigate in life, how you speak to people, talk to people. You may not even think you are holding on to anything from the past, but usually it's the past that forms your future. It's just the way it is. Dumping grounds. Why do these sadists choose the places they choose to discard a body? Plural. Familiarity, I would say. Or convenience. Traveling killer needs to get somewhere where he can't be seen to drop off the bodies naturally. I would assume that would still be the same method with a person who is locally killing women, men. But you don't want to be in a place where you can be seen, IDs such as CCTV footage, a lot of traffic. 9 times out of 10, the dumping of the bodies will be done at night when roads are less traveled by human beings. Gary Ridgway saying he felt violated when the bodies were discovered. Well, now, God says, I don't want my children out there. That's the purpose of them being found, sir. See, even afterwards, still narcissistic, as if you own the bodies. You kill them, violate them, and you still feel like you own them even in death. What is the real reason why Mr. Heuremann does not want to be swabbed? I think he knows he's committed some atrocious crimes, possibly outside of Gilgo Beach. So I don't want them bringing up any more charges. You already got me on 3, possibly number 4 of this new young lady that's been found. Her remains found. I give up my DNA. It's no telling what they may find on these bodies of women. So now I have to ask the ultimate question. How many victims are there by Mr. Heuremann? How many were discarded whole? And how many were discarded, dismembered, but done by Rex Heuremann? Because remember, they can change the method at any point. Start out dumping them whole. The next time, hey, I might have gotten a little sloppy. I may have left something behind. Let me dismember them, and they won't know who these ladies are. Better for me. And once again, the type of women chosen: street workers, escorts. And with the situation with Miss Gilbert, so many complexities to who could have killed her, such as what you hear in this commentary. So many facets of people. You don't know who to think was involved. If there are more than one killers. Because you don't know. You have to wait on DNA testing, see if anything was found with the victims. But I'm praying that they have done a thorough investigation so far. Law enforcement, FBI, and they continue to do so to find out whomever killed the remaining victims on that stretch of highway and beach. Because what will be baffling is if we find out DNA doesn't come back to Mr. Rex, but of another known or unknown male. And he must have felt familiar with the area to dump the bodies, the ones that he's tied to, 3 victims. He lived near there, so that was the best place for him. He didn't want to go drive out of state, drive too far out. So he chose that area for a reason. He knew of the marsh being there. He's lived there his entire life. He knew of the marsh, and that was just an easy place. But what is the number one question is, where did he kill the ladies? Because you have to ask that now that you know he lives near Gilgo Beach, or he was living there before his arrest with his family. So 1, he chose that place because of familiarity. Easy in, easy out. Okay? Easy in, easy out. Did he invite others to participate in nefarious dealings with the women? Number 2, are there any other people still living that have knowledge of Mr. Rex killing the women? Any type of underground group? Help from anyone living in the Gilgo Beach area or town? And 2, are we talking about other killers? If these others can't be tied in to Rex Heuremann. And those are my questions pertaining to him. Did he murder the women at his home? That is the reason why the wife's DNA is on 3 victims. Why do they keep bringing that up? Or is she a cohort and she knew all along he was out picking up women and she joined in on the fun? Who's to say? Because what you have to tell yourself is the obvious. You didn't know Heuremann, so you can't say you know Asa. And when you realize the house was hoarded up, the house looked bad on the outside, it did not fit in with the rest of the homes. You have to wonder, where were their priorities as far as their house and their spending habits? And why are all of you all living in a hoarded house? Why is your house falling apart and you're allegedly an architect downtown Manhattan? Because what I told myself, prove to me he's an architect. Prove to me he was actually going to work. So you don't know people. And we've learned that many people get up pretending they're going to work and they're out doing God knows what. That's what came to mind pertaining to Rex Heuermann. Negasi Zuberi. Many people have come out to talk about their dealings with him. I'm wondering if his ex has knowledge as well of the sex workers, the sexual assaults against him. The reason why they moved around a lot, if indeed she was with him the past couple of years. We learned he also was on a segment of Judge Judy. I do not know if that same black female is the one that did the interview here recently. How many partners has he had? Number one. Has he ever been married? Number two. What was his actual income? How did he make money? Why did he keep moving around? Did he move around because he knew he was doing illegal activities, stealing identities? Grifter, con man, fraudster. How long has he been in a relationship with this lady he has kids with? What are the ages of the children? Does he have any more children? And how many more people are going to come out and give commentary pertaining to Mr. Zuberi? A roommate has spoken, and I wasn't enthralled by his commentary because he didn't go to the police first. He went to Fox, which is not a good look when you're talking about a serial rapist, kidnapper. Let me go call 911 and say, hey, I roomed with him. Here's what I know, what I don't know. Then after you talk to the police, hey, speak to anybody you want to speak to. But I'm very leery of people who go straight to news agents, newspapers, TV shows, but they don't call law enforcement. Appears to be a little clout chasing, in my opinion. A lot is going on out west pertaining to the apprehension of Mr. Zuberi. He's been held on a federal kidnapping. I'm sure there'll be more charges to come. I'm going to bring you commentary pertaining to what has happened after this arrest, dealing with motels, John's, traffic, loitering. The city has mandated these places shut down. But my thing is, you should have done that a long time ago. It shouldn't have been an issue of somebody being kidnapped, and you know that this guy may have frequented the area where he abducted someone, to now say, well, let's close this hotel. Those problems were going on before Zuberi ever touched down on that Aurora Avenue or any other entity in Washington State. Portland sex workers recognize kidnapped suspect Banfield. Once again, News Nation is the source. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Yes, another scary person indeed.
Prison was found in the garage in Klamath Falls. All right, so Nancy, I don't understand. The 2016 and 2020 crimes sound extraordinarily violent. They were against minors, both of these girls 16 years old, and yet he hardly served any time. What are we learning about this?
Yeah, he pleaded no contest in both of those cases, and he served time 56 days in that egregious case involving the 16-year-old who was attacked in the car. But yeah, he served that time, and then he was granted.
He pled no contest to sexually assaulting a child. 56 days incarcerated. You can do that with your eyes closed. 56 days. 1 month. and some change. Not quite 2 months. This is our system, allowing them to bond out, to go back out to assault, reassault the victim, and or possibly kill them because they know that they told, and go back out to finish what they started. How in the hell, and I'm gonna say this to the judge, how in the hell did you think that was appropriate to give a motherfucker 56 days touching a child? And now look where we stand. He kidnapped a woman from another state, brought her from Washington to Oregon, Southern Oregon, locked her in a makeshift, what I call jail, within a garage. She was able to escape by the grace of God. He goes on a run. I do believe he took his family. He's apprehended by law enforcement. And we have the ex-crying wolf. He ain't that type of guy. Oh, he's that type of guy. And you know he's that type. And you possibly know of all his little dirty dealings since you've been dealing with him. Nobody just ran up to your house with a warrant. And that makeshift jail, that's not a place that a renter will want to stay in. Not even enough room for a full-size bed, nightstand table, place to set up a television. Stop the bullshit, lady. You don't want to show your face because you don't want people to see that you've been a fool for a sadist. Not just a fool in love with a no-good ass man, but a fool for a damn rapist who looks like he might have been on his way to becoming a killer, because we don't know if he's murdered anyone and we don't know his intentions with the lady. She is fortunate enough to have made her way out of there. This is disturbing. And as I told you, there's always somebody that holds the secret of a person's dirty deeds. It's just a matter of if they will go tell what was told to them. Let's finish this information about these workers knowing Mr. Zuberi. Thank you.
Yeah, he served that time and then he was granted probation. And that happens a lot in California. And that's why there's a lot of criticism of the legal system in California, of the system being too light on criminals. But there's another assault, Ashley. There's one last year in which he punched somebody in Denver. That case is still open. And as we heard yesterday, this has expanded to 12 states so far. We're waiting to hear back from the FBI to see if it's expanded even further, because as you mentioned, that mugshot is out there and people are responding from all over the place. People have had run-ins with this guy for the past decade, at least, under his various aliases, under Negasi, Zuberi, under Justin Heish, Justin Kowalski, and Sakiman, any other name that he may have used that we don't know yet.
Well, and of course, benefit of the doubt, as we always give, these are all allegations at this point, but boy, it's starting to look pretty difficult, like an uphill road for this fella. The 2020 episode is the same time that the mother of his kids was filing a restraining order against him. Was he on the FBI radar, or was it a problem that he had all these aliases as to why maybe he was not tracked before now?
2020, mother of his children filing a order of protection. So now I have to ask the ultimate question. The woman they're speaking about in 2020 in the order of protection, is this the same woman that just did an interview with the news saying he's not that type of guy, that's not his character? How many women are we speaking of? So once again, how many children does he have? How many baby mamas does he have? And is this the same lady that's living in the Klamath Falls, Oregon house as we speak, where the abduction took place? Bring the queen a receipt. Thank you so much.
As to why maybe he was not tracked before now.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that he was on an FBI radar. A lot of his past, his record has been on a local level. He's had eviction notices. He's had these assaults. He's got a DUI. But yeah, and another eviction notice as well. But it doesn't appear that he's been on the FBI radar until now. And this incident in Klamath Falls with that woman breaking free, getting help, and now he's on a radar in a big way, big spotlight on him, and more things are coming to light.
Whoa. Is he ever? So what I love about you is that you went right to the streets to find out if people knew this guy, if he's got a rap sheet out on the street. And wouldn't you know it, you found a bunch of sex workers who knew absolutely who you were talking about. Tell me what you found out.
Yeah, amazing. Actually, we worked out on 82nd Avenue in Northeast Portland. That's an area known for prostitution. And let me tell you, I spent under an hour speaking with women out on the streets, and immediately 3 of them said, yep, I know him. I've seen him around. I saw him in recent months. And one woman told me that he was verbally abusive, unstable, and a lot of the girls knew to steer clear of him. So he was a familiar face to sex workers here in Portland. Now, we spoke at length with one veteran sex worker here. She says the girls on the streets are especially vulnerable. She is so glad the victim in Klamath Falls was able to break free, but she knows that Negasi, Zuberi allegedly took advantage of these women because they're vulnerable. Take a listen.
I wonder what she's been through before. I am so happy for her that she could fight back and not let this guy win, because it sucks when the bad guys get away with stuff. It's very easy for anyone to say, come with me, if this person has any criminal background, if they have any vulnerabilities, if there's a huge power dynamic disparity. Like, someone who doesn't have a lot of rights isn't going to be able to say no. So they're going to go with anyone who seems to be an authority figure. These people can fly under the radar when they target people who don't have a lot of rights.
And Elle, they're talking about an authority figure. Ashley, as you know, Zuberi allegedly posed as an undercover cop. And a lot of these girls on the streets, they're afraid to speak up and go to police because they're working the streets.
Yeah, well, that was just like an incredible interview, like extraordinarily well spoken about this issue. She knows what she's talking about. And thank you for finding that perspective for us, Nancy Lou. We appreciate it as you continue to track down more. Every day we're getting such disturbing details. Nancy Lou doing the job for us in Portland, Oregon area today. Thank you for watching.
News Nation is the source. So here we have Portland, Oregon on the radar. So you're now talking about different locales. They lived in Klamath Falls. He drove all the way to Washington State, Seattle, which is at the top of Washington, to kidnap a victim who luckily got away. So do the math. Bottom of Oregon to the top of Washington. 7-8 hours driving, sexually assaulting her along the way, putting her in a makeshift cylinder block doom box. And then we have this reporter going to Portland, Oregon, to say, oh yeah, we know him from here too. Stay woke now. You're talking about different jurisdictions of this man moving about. Portland, Oregon, they know him. Now, let's ride all the way up to Seattle, Washington, where he's obviously frequent that area to pretend to be a cop, put this woman in handcuffs, shackles on her ankles, and she was able to use her phone to realize how far out she was traveling with this thing, which I found that baffling. You're going to kidnap a person and then they have access to their phone. So what was the conversation like in that car? Hey, we're going out of the way. Hey, the police station ain't in that direction. What did he say to her? Does she think, hell, I'm not going to live? This man might kill me. He's not a cop. And he looks young. Frazzled looking in his mugshot, of course. Hair a little longer than his other photographs. But he's a sadist nonetheless. He's a wacko. He's a sicko. But what's scary is he moves about. And that is one thing that the roommate said to Fox News. He traveled. I don't know what he was doing. He said he was into real estate. Bingo card. So you don't have any idea what the hell Negasi was doing out there in the street. Traveling from state to state, moving about from one jurisdiction to the other. Picking up women to assault, it looks like, is what he was doing. He's a grifter. He's a con. He's stealing people's identities. And as I said, he was possibly getting money through those identities. And then, too, you have to be able to get a legal ID in those names, because when you move somewhere, they want to see who you are. They're not just going to rent you a place and not have your legal ID or driver's license. So how many fake IDs does he have, or did he have in his possession? See, you have to pay attention to all that. Because in order to rent a home, townhouse, apartment, whatever, you have to have a legal ID. So now you got to ask yourself, how many legal IDs did he have, or illegal IDs of other people? How many identities has he stolen and had documents of those said people? That's even more horrifying besides the assaults. Besides what he did to this lady. He's been stealing people's identities. FBI know him as Sakima, which is not his real name, I believe. That was taken from another black guy who had no idea what was going on until the news contacted him with the story. So now we got to ask, how many assaults? Are there any murders? How many did he actually kidnap and hold hostage in his house? And did the wife participate and or had knowledge, the girlfriend, baby mother, of these women? I got a feeling yes, because one neighbor, Caucasian male, said one lady was locked out the house in a skirt, in shorts in 30-degree weather, and he offered to help her. So what you have to ask yourself is the obvious. Who was that? Was this an apartment, townhouse? What was it? Who was that lady that was outside who didn't want to speak and talk and tell what the hell was going on in that house? Is this the same woman that's living in Klamath Falls with his so-called children? How many baby mamas does he have? How many children does he have? Who is Negasi Zuberi, and is that his legal name? So now we're going from Klamath Falls to Portland, Oregon, to Seattle, Washington, to California, Utah, Nevada. Now we've got Michigan, Illinois on the radar, the places he's lived, 11 cities in 5 years. He's lived all over the United States doing what exactly? You better stay woke now. And as you see, people are jumping out of boxes to testify of their dealings and run-ins, threatening people, threatening a woman, threatening one young man who was a neighbor, breeding pit bulls, never paid rent there. That's the last place I believe he lived before moving to Klamath Falls with this woman and the children. This lady is holding the secret to his nefarious ways. You want me to believe she doesn't know about what happened in California? Then we got to go ask how long ago was that? Because I believe right now he's on probation for that. Something about a charge he's facing currently. He's been very busy. And that girlfriend, baby mama, knows a lot. And what I'd like to know is, why are you telling the world you're his ex, but you're defending him? Oh, yeah, there were times we didn't get along, but he tried to help me go to school, help me do this. Yeah, help you lie for him, his biggest chore. All he's been is a baby maker, a liar, and a sadist. And you rode the ride, ma'am, alongside with him. And as I said before in my last commentary, you don't need to be breeding children, and you don't need to be taking care of children. You're just, to me, as bad as he is. Possibly worse, because for you to aid a serial killer, sadist, rapist, you're on the same damn level. Doesn't matter if you went out and got the women, lured the women for him. You know he's been doing things with them. And he's moved around too much. So that's why we have to ask, how long have you known him? How old are your children? Have you been with him on these excursions from one city to the other? You didn't ask him why we're going to Nevada, ma'am? Because allegedly you were standing outside of the car when the police arrived and apprehended him. You went back home on a bus. But then you gave this cockamamie interview. He ain't that type. He would never bring people to the house with his children there. That makes no sense what you're saying when you just admitted to the public you all sublet rooms out of the house, and you're going to hear commentary about that. They rented out any open space for people to sleep, just taking in vagabonds and anybody with a pulse. So that means you didn't care anything about your damn children, and he didn't care because he wanted money. And he possibly just wanted money so he could run around from state to state raping people. Because can't nobody find you if, one, they don't have your legal name and you're moving about from place to place. Hell yeah, you can be a great rapist, serial killer, because you're not in one place for too long. This is disturbing. News Nation was that source pertaining to sex workers in Portland recognizing this thing. Let's go over here to KOMO News. This is 4 days ago. Open prostitution in spotlight after abduction.
The Emerald Motel and Seattle Inn on Aurora Avenue are now temporarily closed. An employee at the Seattle Inn told us they haven't been accepting customers for days. Over at the Emerald Motel, this sign was posted on the locked lobby doors, signed by management. It says they're working with SPD and that no loitering, drug activity, prostitution, or unregistered persons are allowed. It is some of those crimes mentioned on the door that Seattle police officials said prompted them to take action. The motel's owners were served chronic nuisance declaration letters, and city officials tell us that SPD requested they stop operating, and they did.
But I can tell you here in our spot, I think we all feel better about it.
An anonymous nearby employee said there's a difference in this area now. It's quiet. This is what it looked like last week. You'll see many cars in the parking lot. That's not the case anymore. That employee said city leaders need to stick to their promises.
Well, I think what just happened in the last couple of days is proof that if you try and you do your job, like, you can see that it works.
City Attorney Ann Davison told us in a statement that these locations have been a nuisance and a danger to the public, crime victims, and neighboring areas. This won't be tolerated, and it won't be the last time we take action in the North Seattle area. The goal now from Seattle police is to go forward from here and bring down the high crime levels on the notorious street.
Yeah, no injuries is the good news, but it did stop that ambulance from responding to the emergency they were heading to. People who were walking here along 45th Street jumped into action to help police arrest the suspect.
Okay, that's new other information. What I have a problem with this is the obvious. Why does it always have to be something tragic to happen for people to recognize there needs to be a change? You had a problem with these hotels before Negasi ever went in that direction, before a woman was ever kidnapped from that area. The hotels were nuisances beforehand. Why is now you get information of somebody frequenting the area and kidnapping a woman? Now it's, oh, well, we're shutting them down, blah, blah, blah. So now we have to ask, what about the people who live there? Because there are people who live in hotels. They don't have a permanent address such as an apartment. That is their permanent address. Did you all allow those people to be able to stay in a hotel? Because when you say shut down or close it down, people are going to wonder about the people who are also living there. That is their permanent address. So did you also make the people who live there leave? Because they may be getting a fixed rate to stay there, pay a weekly, monthly rate. People join SSI or, doing various type of work, but need a place to stay, and they couldn't get an apartment for whatever reason. Are those people still allowed to live there? I'm curious. See, change should be implemented, period. Especially when you're dealing with nuisances, loitering, crime, prostitution. It's all go hand in hand. Drug traffic, it all goes hand in hand. It's what you allow. You allow the people to run amok, cause problems, loiter on the property, come in and out, post up, hang out. There's going to be a problem. A lot of street people hang in hotels, motels for what I just said. They need a place to live. They pay their little weekly rent and or monthly, bi-weekly, however it goes. And those usually people who stay in trouble. But then you have those who just hard on their luck and that's all they can find. And they need a place to stay. Everybody isn't the same that live in motels or low rent motels. So it's even worse for those people who are trying to better themselves and they're stuck living in these places and they have to live around all this drug trafficking and prostitution and this and that. But once again, as we said, it's what you allow. Same thing with the homeless population dominating streets and locales and businesses. You don't tell the people to move on, they're going to continue to hang about, loiter, litter. It is what it is. You tell them to move from this place, you stay on them, boom, they go find somewhere else. It's a vicious cycle. And in the end, a lot of people don't want better. That's another thing. You can't make people want better. Some people like living on the street. Some people like living a street life, whether it be drug addict, homeless, street worker, grifter, whatever. Some people like that life. And that's another problem. Some are out there on the street, don't want to be, but they don't have the resources or the money or the funds or the aptitude to do better. Then you have the flip side, those who like being out there, running around, getting into stuff, popping pills, dope, fentanyl, whatever, heroin. They enjoy the life. And those are the ones we all have to be aware of because they're willing to do anything to get by. That's that information coming out of Washington, state of Washington. KOMO News is the source. So we've talked about Mr. Heuremann, his wife, DNA, why he doesn't want to give a swab. Did he murder the women at his house? Who all was involved? Ex-police officers, new police officers. And that's another thing I want to talk about as well. The officers in that case, are some of them still on the force? Suffolk County Police Department, Sheriff's Department. I believe 2 or so that worked as officials are incarcerated. But what about the others who rode the ride? Is this an underground group that was working with Mr. Rex Heuremann? What's the role of the wife? What does she know about his extracurricular activities? Did she participate in any of the kidnappings? Does have knowledge? And is it that the women were murdered at the home and that's why his wife's hair is on 3 of the victims? Then we go to the Pacific Northwest, where we have Mr. Zuberi, who's lived a very interesting life, moving about from place to place. He's been on the Judge Judy show, sued by a woman, allegedly burning his clothes. He won that claim. Her counterclaim was dismissed. He's got children by a woman who still lives in that Klamath Falls house. She's telling the world that he's not that guy, but obviously he is that guy. He is a sadist. He has sexual assaults on his book for underage girls, on probation for one of those cases out of the state of California, which is an atrocious rendering for a child. To let a sadist say no contest and only give him 56 days in jail. Where is she now? Where is the other victim? Will we hear that there are more assaults? Now he's been linked to 4. People are coming out, neighbors, friends, associates, or let's just say people who have dealt with him. Very baffling information. Okay. There was something else I wanted you all to hear. We have a lot of states now involved There was a lady who spoke. I don't know if I played that or not. I think I played that yesterday. I think what's more sickening, this fool wrote it down on a sheet of paper, what he had planned to do with the victim. Make sure she doesn't have family, leave my phone behind, and make sure there's no investigation. So now we have to ask, did he plan on killing this victim? It's very scary. My movie of the week is Lake Alice. And the other movie I found late this morning, very creepy movie, that will be my recommendation for the weekend. It's Dead Body, for those of you who like horror movies. There's information pertaining to Mr. Rex about a brother being arrested. You all have mentioned that. I'll possibly do that tomorrow. That way I don't take up much time today. I'll just do a separate video on that. Trying to see, I don't see anything. One second. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hello, Sammy. How are you? Hello, everybody in the chat. Just trying to look up this information about the brother. Someone said something about the brother. I'll have to do a separate, because everybody knows 2 weeks ago, the FBI was at the brother's compound looking for information. Do not know what they've all gathered from that. Trying to see if I see anything. Nothing is coming up. There's also new information pertaining to John Benet Ramsey, that case, pertaining to a man who's written information pertaining to the death of the child. Do not know if this is true or not. We will see. Another baffling case of no suspect being arrested. That's mostly what I have for today. Few people have come out to speak about their dealings with Mr. Zuberi, and it's not good. It's not good at all. And it's very scary. Because in the end, it's just like any true crime. You don't know people. You see people every day. They live in your building, your neighborhood. You work with people. You date people, and you don't know what they are capable of, even if they have never shown any violent tendencies. But in this case, for Mr. Zuberi, he has. Few people have witnessed his violent tongue and behavior. As far as Mr. Rex Heuremann'S, I haven't heard of any violent tendencies acted out, just that he appeared to be dominant in his commentary writing train, wanted to be seen, heard, acknowledged. But in the end, he and Mr. Zuberi are similar creatures. They are insecure and they want to be validated. So they throw their weight around, their tongue around, and also use their hands to force women to do not so nice things. And that's the scary part, because as we have learned with true crime, when it comes to rapists, at some point, the rapist realizes he cannot have a living witness. Because once he is interrogated, someone puts out a sketch, someone starts knocking on doors, he knows, okay, I'm not about to stop what I'm doing till I can't have a live body. And that's where murder comes in. And that's when rapists become murderers. Now, some rapists never kill. But if he decides to cross that line, he becomes desperate, then he will. So we will see if there's more information pertaining to any deaths by the hands of Mr. Zuberi and also with Mr. Rex Heuremann. And will Mr. Rex Heuremann be tied to this latest victim that has been identified through DNA? He does not want to give up his DNA, which I find interesting. I'm sure he doesn't want to. I'm sure his lawyer asked him, would you like to give a swab? He had to have told him no. That's why the lawyer is saying, why do you all need it? You know why they need it, sir. It's an ongoing investigation. Come on now. They've gotten his DNA from a piece of crust. His wife's DNA is at the scene of 3 bodies. And you want to really say, well, I don't think he needs to give his DNA. Well, yes, he does. This isn't going away. And I believe he's committed more crimes. That is the reason why Mr. Heuremann does not want his DNA given up, because it then will tie him directly to any live bodies or assaults or dismembered and or dead bodies where they can get skin, DNA, semen, whichsoever. That's my set commentary for this afternoon. I want to thank you all for joining me. Like, share, subscribe. Pass this information on to other platforms. Please share. Please check out my extensive library dating back to July of 2019. Check out my community board for said updates. And please take the polls that are on the community page. I'd like to hear your opinion and what you think of the said information. Thank you, Lady Love. Very welcome. I will be back with more information pertaining to one of the brothers being arrested allegedly. Heard someone mention that. I didn't see anything come up in the queue. So I will do a little digging later on. But please be safe and aware of your surroundings. Please stay hydrated for those of you who are in hot regions. And as I said, Lake Alice is my movie suggestion of the week. And for the weekend, it will be Dead Body for those of you who like horror movies. And Lake Alice is a little mild horror movie pertaining to a family going away on vacation to a cabin in dead of winter. Very interesting movie. All of those can be watched in the YouTube queue. Thank you for your time. As I said before, there's more information coming out against Mr. Bill Cosby. Someone else is now bringing forward an allegation of being drugged and assaulted by him. Some people don't think he should be incarcerated because of his age and that the timeline of the events are old. But the point is, a crime is a crime, and there should never be a stipulation on rape because of the time. You don't stipulate murder. You don't put a timeline on murder and apprehending a suspect in a murder investigation. So there should not be a stipulation on sexual assault, child molestation, child rape, trafficking of an individual. If it has been done, you can get a receipt, then charges should be brought forward. That's my public opinion. I will also do another video pertaining to Mr. Kohlberger. I'm a week or so behind. His alibi is basically no alibi. He's basically telling, yes, I ride around at night. I rode around on that night, but I didn't kill those kids. Because we already knew, Mr. Kohlberger, you didn't have an alibi because, one, you don't have friends. And you didn't have friends when you were a student at Washington State. Because, one, you're not a likable person. And you killed those kids. And you and your lawyer are just dicking around with the system and the state for amusement. But in the end, you will go to trial, stand trial, and I do believe you will be found guilty. And I do pray that the death penalty will be on the table because you rightfully deserve a needle to the arm. Frankly, you deserve much worse than that, but that's what they give now. But in the state of Idaho, they have now introduced the firing squad if the needle isn't accessible. How about that? Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful week. I will be back later tomorrow with more commentary. Please stay safe. You have been listening to The Vault Excel.